What's poppin', people? It's Dante, getting my morning started here in Philadelphia along the Schuylkill River Trail, my favorite place to start the day. Shooting with the Ricoh GR3 with high contrast black and white crank to the max. Just snapshotting my way through life, getting the morning started early. It's around 5 a.m. I believe. And we're headed to the Waterworks. The Waterworks located behind the Philadelphia Museum of Art over there. Yeah, apparently the original Waterworks, the original water pump that provided water to the city of Philadelphia before City Hall was constructed was actually located at the location of City Hall in the center of town. You know, the center of a town, the center of a village, it's in need of water. It's in need of a source of life and vitality. And the water itself is what provides this. And so I was reminded of this during my walk, just reading some of the historic plaques and things here in Philadelphia. You know, you can really learn about the history anywhere you walk, as this is the birthplace of democracy, the birthplace of America. Very special city here. One of my favorite things to do is to actually explore the old city area. I was exploring this 18th century garden last weekend. Very beautiful, very, very beautiful. When I consider the water, when I consider the way that water provides vitality and life to a community, I'm reminded of my time as a Peace Corps volunteer in Zambia, Africa, where the well, the borehole, you know, this is a very heavily trafficked area. Every morning, people gather at the well, people gather at the borehole with many buckets to fill. And some families have around 10 children per house. So you can imagine the amount of buckets needed to sustain a family each and every day. Some villages are located far away from their borehole and take an entire day for water, where they travel all day just to get water. Meanwhile, in the West, here in the United States, we can turn on the tap and we have fresh water, right? What would happen if the well was poisoned? What would happen if the water was destroyed? If we had this mean person just tamper with the water? I don't know why I think of that. I think it's just an interesting thought, though. It's like, it really is this sick thought, to be fair, and I sometimes have them just out of curiosity. It's like, it would be a real easy way to cause insane amounts of chaos and mayhem in the world. All you would really need to do is poison the water. I remember drawing the water from the well, and I remember I would even add chlorine, like a drop of something. I don't remember if it was chlorine, I think so, like a drop of chlorine or iodine or something into the water after filtering it through a gravity filter. And then sometimes I would even boil it, right? Like I would boil it, filter it, drop, you know, some chemical in it, and then drink it, just to be safe. And yeah, what a privilege it is to be able to just turn the water on, drink it, and fuel my lust for life. You know, where real health thoughts, I mean, just like plants, humans too are plants, right? What do we need but, you know, sunlight, water, right? And then I guess food is good. But what foods we consume, I think, is critical to consider. So when I arrived in my village in Zambia, I was greeted by my host family with a goat hanging from a tree. And I was handed a knife and I slaughtered this goat. And then for the next few days during the week, we feasted all week on this meat, where primarily for the entire year, We visited the fish pond, we visited the lake, and we harvested fish, and I ate fish for an entire year, which is way less satiating than the meat from a goat or the meat from a cow, right? So when I consider meat as the ultimate food source to consume, when I consider the human being as the apex predator, you know, in life, in the world, in this sort of hierarchy of us within nature itself, yeah, perhaps we should be consuming the flesh of animals, you know, sort of making that sacrifice similar to the sacrifice made as a Peace Corps volunteer when I slaughtered the goat, you know, where I prepared chickens by hand. I would go to the farmer and buy a live chicken right there, and I would go home and pluck its feathers, slaughter it, prepare it, cut it up into pieces, boil it. And when I tell you, the chicken, when you make it from scratch, when you get the live chicken and you go through the full process of making the chicken, it tastes 1,000 times better than buying a pre-packaged chicken from the grocery store. Tweet, tweet, little birdies. Yeah, the music is a muse to my ear. You know, the music of the birds. And actually, during my time in Palestine, during Eid al-Adha, the day of sacrifice, I remember seeing hundreds of goats being slaughtered all throughout the streets. Perhaps they were goats, lamb, I forget which animal. I think they were lamb. And these lamb were being slaughtered like it was a bloody mess throughout the streets on this day, on Eid al-Adha, and I would feast during those days, right? But you know, there's something about sacrifice, making the sacrifice of the animal, and the human being as the apex predator, and consuming these animals. Yeah, this will then fuel your power. And so what is happiness but a byproduct of your power, right? When I consider happiness, I consider power, I consider physical strength, I consider overcoming yourself and overcoming obstacles through power. You know, through consuming red meat, I become more powerful. And the greatest thing that I've realized through the consumption of red meat, and only eating it for around 18-19 months now straight, no breakfast, no lunch, and only eating red meat, right? No vegetables, nothing. The amount of power I feel is insane. Like, I don't ever need food during the day, and I think that is such a great place to be. You know, when I consider this food pyramid and the way that red meat is on the top of a food pyramid as the food to consume sparingly, and the information that we've been given and fed about cholesterol being so bad, it's concerning. Because when you consider the United States, the world, but primarily the United States, and you know, I'm considering the food pyramid that I've seen depicted by Harvard University, supposed to be, you know, the prestigious university, whatever. There are an insane amount of obese people. Like, the majority of people in the United States are obese, right? And that's just a fact. And maybe the food pyramid that we abide by, maybe the doctor's advice, maybe it's worth contemplating, maybe it's worth considering. And look, I'm no doctor or expert, but obviously the information that we've been given isn't necessarily putting us in a place of abundance of health. Actually, when I consider abundance and the abundance of health, I'm reminded of the Trevi Fountain. There's a depiction of a sculpture of abundance where there's a cornucopia, and these sculptures are of Baroque style, right? This very dramatized, this beautiful period of art after the Renaissance, where I found lots of inspiration in Rome from these Baroque churches, specifically the church that is near the Spanish Steps. I'm trying to remember the name. Santa Maria de Miracale, like the Miracle Church. So beautiful, all Baroque style, very small church. And I don't know, there's something about the ornaments, the detail, the sculptural style, the architectural style of the Baroque period that I find to be beautiful, considering Caravaggio and his use of chiaroscuro, light and shadow, the high contrast sort of aesthetics, the biblical stories, the impact, the drama, the emotional charge within the works. You know, this is something that I would like to evoke through my photography, you know, in a way. And, you know, there's something about the soul, there's something about the heart of a photographer that is on display in a photograph. So when you consider a photograph, what is a photograph but merely a reflection of your courage, right? A photograph as a reflection of your courage, core, C-O-R, meaning heart, right? It's your heart. You put your heart on display in the photographs that you make. Isn't that what we're looking for? To showcase the soul of the street, to showcase our heart when we're out there on the street. You know, my theory is a lot of people get into photography, maybe they go on a vacation one time, they buy a camera, they think it's pretty cool, they take kind of tourist photos, they go down the rabbit hole, they think about gear a lot, what camera is good for this, what camera is good for that, what lens to use. And I think that a lot of these decisions are what hold people back from becoming better photographers, where ultimately people maybe discover street photography and want to become better at this thing. But the gear, the gas, the gear acquisition syndrome, whatever you call it, is ultimately what holds a lot of people back. Where the greatest thing that you can do is just buy a Ricoh and not look back. Or any camera where you don't have to think too much, right? The point is you don't want to think too much. And what a Ricoh does specifically is you throw it on your wrist, you know, it's right here, right there, and you forget you have a camera, right? You forget you have a camera. And that's, I think, the beauty of using this thing. And you know, having a Ricoh on the wrist strap, it's the closest thing to not having a camera. And I think that's a great thing. You know, thinking of Rome and the aqueducts, what a beautiful thing. I mean, even the aqueducts there are still rolling and working. I actually think that the aqueducts connect to the Trevi Fountain. I've been traveling a lot since I was a little boy. I remember when I was around 6 or 7 years old, I would visit the Trevi Fountain and throw my coin into the well over my left shoulder, making a wish. You know, there's something about these sort of myths or folklore or things that are interesting. You know, consider the founding of Rome, the myth of La Lupa, the she-wolf raising Remus and Romulus, the two brothers suckling from this wolf, being raised in the wild, raised by the wolf, you know, untamed, savage. You know, that's the mindset, that's the approach that we must embrace in our lives, this savage beast, you know, on the street, I think. And when you consider Rome and the founding of one of the greatest empires and the myth of it, you know, the wolf raising the brothers. What do wolves eat when they kill their prey? The first thing a wolf eats when it kills its prey is the liver. So what does that mean for us as the apex predator? We too should eat the liver. We too should consume this nutrient-dense food that will fuel us with power. You know, that power being happiness. But is that merely the goal, to be happy, to pursue pleasure? Maybe it's not that bad after all. The more I think about it, maybe it's not a bad thought. Why not? But the toil, the pain, the process is something that we must endure. You know, thinking of Hercules and his 12 labors, thinking of Sisyphus pushing the rock up the mountain, you know, and it always rolling back down, and him having to constantly attempt to reach the peak, but he can never reach that peak. You know, when you consider Prometheus, right? Prometheus in Greek mythology being the creator of humans, crafting people from clay. He actually stole the fire from Mount Olympus to give to people to create technology and civilization. And Prometheus, because he stole the fire and because he gave it to humanity, he was punished. He was punished with the most tormenting thought ever. Like this thought, right? In Greek mythology, just think about this. Lying out, chained to a rock, being tortured by a vulture or an eagle coming down and eating your liver every day, Prometheus being immortal, constantly feeling the pain, never dying, but constantly having his liver eaten by a vulture over and over again. Hercules coming as the hero to save Prometheus. You know, and I learn about these things through my experiences traveling. You know, what I've been doing is, I remember in Florence visiting the sculptures of Achilles and Hercules and David, and even here outside of the Philadelphia Museum of Art, I was looking at this photograph, or this sculpture of Prometheus strangling the vulture, and it's depicted right out front of the museum here. You know, we have lots of the Greek gods along the outside of the museum. And what I do is I take my camera, I photograph things, and I ask ChatGPT, you know, what is this? What is this sculpture? What is it depicting? And from there you can learn. And even when it comes to plants and trees and things, you can make photographs of things and have it describe what it is. So yeah, I believe that using these tools is a really great thing. I've also been reading a lot of Friedrich Nietzsche. I'm finishing The Will to Power, hopefully by the end of next week. Just taking my time, you know, there's something leisurely about reading philosophy. And I even read the book that he made about the tragic age of ancient Greek. And a lot of the works, I basically read around 10 of the works of Nietzsche so far, and I'm really into it. And I really think that reading, it's not like, I don't think it should be like this chore, but it's just like a way for you to leisurely spend your time. And what I find is when you come to a space like this, where it's just a beautiful scene, where you look out towards the water, you're surrounded by trees and natural things, sculptures. You know, I'm looking out towards this Fairmount Park Waterworks, which is inspired to look like a Greek temple, right? Think of the Greco-Roman architecture of the art museum. You know, these things uplift the human spirit to a new height. You know, they transcend this world, these pieces of architecture, these sculptures, these myths that are depicted upon them. You know, when I look at architecture, you know, in Rome at the Colosseum, the Pantheon, you know, this art museum here in Philadelphia, the Waterworks, City Hall, you know, these things uplift the soul, the spirit. There's something in architecture, there's something in sculpture that defies gravity, physics. And you know, there's something about the sheer grandeur, there's something about the hero depicted in the sculpture, you know, looking up at this thing that's physically bigger than a human being and aspiring or striving upward, you know, onward to becoming that hero, to becoming that thing that you are viewing. You know, is man permitted to strive to become a demigod? Or does society and, you know, just societal norms label the man striving to become the hero as crazy? Why is that? I don't know, maybe perhaps equality? You know, where equality maybe, I have spider web all over my face. It's equality. I actually love that though, like all the nature, like look at all these flies. There's so many flies right here. Like there's something about slowing down, feeling the cobwebs, catching the flies, you know, feeling the textures of things, right? The leaves and plucking things. But yeah, there's something about equality that promotes mediocrity, you know, where in a world where everyone's equal, everyone's base level, well, inevitably everyone will be merely mediocre. So maybe excellence is not permitted in a society that promotes equality, which inevitably, in my opinion, leaves us surrounded by mediocrity. But alas, surrounding yourself with beauty is the ultimate virtuous and best vice. It is the ultimate, you know, this is the ultimate vice, right? Curiosity as a vice, surrounding yourself with beauty, ignoring the ugly as much as I try to. You know, you see a lot of things on the streets. I think returning to nature is inevitable, you know, man in nature. You know, I walk down Market Street and this girl's in front of me and she just like nonchalantly, like she's probably like in high school or something, she has a piece of Dunkin' Donuts trash and she just throws it up in the air and it just lands right in front of my feet, and I pick it up and throw it away. And it's like, people are just funny creatures, like human beings. You know, because we have trash cans right there, you know, you just pick it up, you know, when you're done, you know, you're done drinking your whatever weird beverage this color is, you know, you're done drinking the drink, you know, you come over here and you throw it away. You know, you finish eating your Takis and your Korean fried chicken and you and you throw it away. You know, you come to the pavilion, you look out at the water, you look out at the boathouses, the beautiful reflection of the water, you know, you got the architecture, the Greek temple, you know, the history, the waterworks, you know, vitality. And you surround yourself with beauty. But then it's your, you know, the first thing that I saw today when I came outside was the woman, she just bent over, pulled her pants down in front of a sewer and just started peeing directly into the sewer. And I'm just praying to God that that water doesn't cycle back into our water source. I'm just praying to God that that doesn't go down my tap, you know? Thank God for technology. Thank God for Rome, you know. Thank God for their advancements with the modern day sewer systems. You know, thank God. Anyway. Yeah, don't take yourself so seriously. Embrace the spirit of play. Your photograph is a reflection of your courage, and when you photograph, don't think too much, just do. Yeah, just respond with your intuition. Don't really worry about the result. I think you should detach yourself from the outcome as much as possible. You know, don't worry about the print, don't worry about the gallery, all this kind of boring stuff. Why? Because photography is simply a way for you to give yourself an excuse to embrace the spirit of play and your lust for life. You know, my lust for life leads me here every single day on repeat. I never want to miss another sunrise again. The waterworks. Hey look, someone threw a watermelon and smashed it. I'm sure they threw it from up here because that splatter is quite big. Huh. It's a good place to throw the watermelon. Yeah, the street is a theater. The street, it's like a TV show. It's like you go out and you just laugh in the face of chaos.